This morning we'll be continuing our series in We Are the Church. Last week I really enjoyed it. I know I probably should say that about most of my own sermons, but last week I enjoyed it. That was one that I thought was really important. And then last week's focus was everyone has a role, and no role is too small. Part of that is that I think some of us have limitations because of different reasons. Some I believe they have limitations because of age. Maybe they're too young, maybe they're too old, or maybe because we don't speak well in front of other people, or we don't do this or do that. But everyone has a role, and there's something we can all do. I believe that sometimes it's getting out of our comfort zone a little bit. For me, when I answered a call to preach, it was like, God, why are you doing this? I like talking, but not like that. I'd rather give speeches than preach, and that's how I felt it. Now I feel the reverse because I've got a little more practice. But everyone has a role. If it's cleaning, if it's greeting, if it's pouring a cup of coffee, even at home. I'm a big advocate of everyone has a role. For instance, I don't do laundry at home. It's a terrible, terrible thing if I do. I don't sort the clothes right because to me it's like, it'll all fit in one load, and that's good enough. Apparently for my wife, that was not okay. There are lights, and there are darks, and there are whites, and there are towels, and there are jeans, and all these things can't be washed together. When I was single and, soon to be college-age guys and college-age guys, when you do your own laundry, don't put a towel in with the rest of your clothes. The rest of them, you can probably get away with, but if you put a towel in there with the rest of your clothes, you know what happens? You get all this fuzz all over everything you own, and it is impossible to get rid of. I'm not saying I learned that from experience, but I did it once. And it was a purple towel, I'm pretty sure, and it was all over everything. Jeans just had this purple lint to it. It wasn't cool. So that's why I don't do laundry. But you know what I do? I do take care of the yard. Kristen doesn't do anything in the yard when it comes to that side. I do take care of the cars. Kristen's not out there changing the oil in the car or cleaning them or any of that stuff. Generally, that's me. So even at home, we all have a role, and no role is too small. I may not do laundry, but if she'll sort it, I will put it in the washing machine, and then I will move it to the dryer, and I will take it out. I can do it with some assistance. It may not be my preference, it may not be what I like to do best, but I can. So that's something I can do. No role is too small. So no matter of age, no matter of ability, no matter of, whatever limitations you see in yourself, we all have a role, and it's something that God has personally equipped us and called us to be able to do. Sometimes it's just a friendly face. Sometimes it's singing and leading worship and playing music, because I can't do any of those. I can play bass, I can kind of play guitar, but I'm not that skilled in it. It is not my primary skill. So it's better to let people who are more skilled do it, right? That's how I feel. You don't want me singing Wall of Church really early if I do. So everyone has a role. And as we continue going through this series, something that I kind of was sparked with is I was getting lunch with a friend a couple weeks ago, and me and him were talking about all the things that you're not supposed to talk about, right? Religion, politics, this and that. Everything that you're not supposed to talk about, personal relationships with our spouses, those are all things that you're not supposed to talk about with people. And me and him were going through them. We've known each other for a while, so it's not a shocker. And as we're talking, his phone keeps going off, right? I think you guys know what I'm talking about. His phone keeps going off. Text messages, phone calls, emails, Facebook notifications, it beeps, it buzzes, it vibrates. It seems like every few minutes. And you know what he did? He picked up his phone every time. Look, even if it's just I'll get back to that later. Oh, hold on, I gotta take this. Yeah, because he owns his own business, so he has to do some of those things. But the phone kept going off and kept checking it. And to be honest, I don't know if you guys ever experienced this. Maybe you haven't. Has anyone ever experienced that? Sat down with someone and the phone keeps going off? Okay, most of us have. And they keep checking it. And I was getting a little peeved. And then I reminded myself that, I'm just as bad too. We're a very technology-based society now, which has increasingly happened over 20 years. Because 20 years ago, cell phones were a luxury item. Now everybody has one. Dial-up internet. Anyone remember dial-up internet? Sitting there, beep, 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 beep. The noises and everything. That was not fun. And then when you finally get it on, like now, it's like if my browser, if I type in Google and I'm searching for something and it does not come up like this, it is slow. I'm like, why is it being so slow? Like I'm waiting. Dial up, you type in the browser and you're like, oh yes, it's loading. You're excited that it's loading because if it wasn't loading, you know what that means? You gotta reconnect. You can redo it. So internet has drastically changed. There wasn't social media 20 years ago. I think social media really came around, actually getting popular. Let me rephrase that, getting popular somewhere about 10 to 15 years ago when MySpace came out. Anyone remember MySpace? I know you guys probably don't. You know who owns MySpace? Anybody? Justin Timberlake, just in case anyone's curious. But he wasn't the creator of it, he bought it. But when he bought it after MySpace went down, because what came after MySpace? Facebook. And almost everyone in here probably either knows of Facebook or has a Facebook. And if you're like me, you have this little Facebook icon on your phone, you have this little Facebook icon on your tablet, it's probably logged in and you get notifications on your computer, and whatever you have it there. As part of our society being so connected, you would think that we would feel more connected than ever. Because my family's 800 miles away with my dad out there, that's where he is. And I can see what's going on in their life. I can talk to them. You know what else is cool that's not popular 20 years ago? I can call my dad in South Carolina on a South Carolina number, and it's not long distance. I don't have to pay extra for that. But we're actually in a society that is actually the loneliest, most separated society that has been in a very, very long time. Which is insane to me, because I remember when I was a kid, if you want to talk to someone again, long distance calling cards. I remember having those because I'd call family that wasn't home, wasn't in the same area. You know, internet was terrible, so it wasn't like we got on there and did like things that we didn't have to do. Like email was remotely used, not anything like it is now. So we didn't have any of these things, but we were connected. I think it goes back to the conversation with my friend. His phone goes off and he has this innate response to have to check it. I actually did some statistics and I was looking through it because I like numbers. We were talking about this just earlier. I like numbers. People that are between, like basically millennials, like I want to say the statistic was 63% of people that are millennials are addicted to their cell phones. And how you can tell if you're addicted, there's a few things that you can go through that are questions. If your phone goes off and you have to check it, that's a sign of addiction. If you leave your phone at home and you have a panic attack, that is a sign of addiction. If you're, any of these things, and I went through and I actually took this test, are you addicted to your phone? It was made by Dr. Psychology, it's a professional test, and if you answer yes to more than 5 questions out of 15, you have a cell phone addiction. I answered yes to 11. I'm a millennial, I answered yes to 11. I challenge you, and I will send you the link if you want to take it to find out if you have a cell phone addiction. I actually do not have my cell phone on me right now, but if my phone goes off, I'm that guy, I'm going to check it. I'm going to look at it. Me and Kristen were getting lunch a couple weeks ago, the phone go off, and it's on my lunch break, so it can be my boss from work, it can be church stuff, and we're planning a memorial cruise to ride the Ducks. It's next week, so it can be any of these things. And my phone goes off, okay, it's nothing I have to answer right now. But I apparently have a cell phone addiction. If you answer yes to more than 8 of the 15 questions, it actually recommends seeing a psychologist. So, I'll talk to you later, Kristen. But that's what it is. And honestly, I bet if anyone here under the age of 35, maybe older, took that test, they would also be a cell phone addict. Because it's such a normal part of our life. As we move through some of those things, it was 36% of all people, no matter what age you are, all people. If you're a human being and you're alive, you count as all people. So it's not by age demographic. 36% of people thought about their cell phone first thing in the morning. 10% thought about their spouse. How about that statistic? What do you think of when you first wake up? Are you thinking, I need to check my phone real quick, see what notifications I got, or how many Instagram followers I have now, or maybe someone sent me a Snapchat? Are you thinking those, or are you thinking, wow, I hope my spouse slept good? And I don't want to answer that question personally. Just there's a bit of both. Usually my first thought is, why is there a dog in my face? Because we have 2 German Shepherds that are tall enough that if they wake up before I'm up, they'll come over and I have my arm here and they usually start licking me, trying to like, hey, let's get up now. It's 5 in the morning, it's time to get up. So that's usually one of my first responses, but isn't it sad that almost 4 times as many, 3.5 times as many people think about their cell phone first than think about the person that's probably sleeping next to them? And also the other crazy statistic is, and I'll ask this question before I give the number, how many of you guys sleep with your cell phone on a nightstand right next to your bed, or if you sleep with your phone on your bed, under your pillow, on top of your pillow, anyone sleep with it within arm reach? How many? That's almost everyone. Maybe you go, yeah, that's me. Almost everyone. Mine is slightly outside of arm's reach because, again, I know that I have a problem with my cell phone, and about a year ago, I moved my phone away from the bed. It's like we have the master bedroom, obviously, and then the bathroom. And the bathroom's about 10 feet away from my side of the bed. That's where my phone sits. Kristen's phone's on the other side, but I'm one of those people that if I wake up, because I don't sleep great, I'll wake up in the middle of the night, I'll pick my phone up. And then I start like trying to find something to read to put me to sleep, which actually has been shown by studies to make sleep worse for you, not better. So again, I had to put my phone away, or I would sit there on my phone for an hour and a half in the middle of the night because I got woke up. As someone who's going to have a baby next year, there'll be plenty of nights, I'm sure, where I will be falling asleep in a rocking chair and not in my own bed, or I'll be up multiple times in the middle of the night. But cell phones have become such a normal thing that it's required for us to sleep with it next to us, with it close to us, with it right there. And that's what we have to do. It's got to be close. Because forever, that's where I slept, with it right there. But 48% of people sleep with their phone next to them, or on their bed, or under their pillow. And if you are a person that sleeps with it on your bed, please don't do that anymore. That is actually a fire hazard, and it's likely to catch on fire because your battery will overheat and it can combust. So don't sleep with it under your pillow or any of those things. You don't want to be woke up with your pillow on fire. That would be a very terrible way to wake up. So don't do that. But as connected as we are more separated than we have ever been. Because we are so busy checking our phone that we don't have conversations with people in front of us. Kristen and I think it was last year, maybe 2 years ago, we started, when we go out to eat, we put our cell phones on the table, stack on top of each other, and move them out of arm reach. Because otherwise, I feel like we're like a lot of people. If you ever sit in a restaurant, I'm a people watcher. Look around at how many people are sitting there, and both people are sitting on their cell phones and they're not talking to each other. One of my favorites, because I think it is very dangerous, one of my favorites is, you'll be in a parking lot. You're driving to your parking spot, right? And you see, parents, mom or dad, either one or both, their phones are in their hand, and their 3-year-old is about 16 car spaces behind them. And they're both doing this, looking down, and not paying attention to where their kid is. Our society is so attached to the cell phone, and there's actually an addiction for it. If you forget your phone, if you feel like you're lost without your phone, any of those, it's called a phobia. If you guys have heard of those, it's an irrational fear. It's nomophobia. That means you have a fear of being without your cell phone. Most of us, if you've ever forgot your phone and you think, I need to go back and get it because something bad will happen and I need it, you have nomophobia. I have that. When I leave and it's like, oh no, I forgot my phone, and like, if I'm within a few minute drive to going back and getting it, I'll go back. This isn't like, okay, I'm going to be out of state, I'm going to be in Chicago or whatever, I need my phone. Those are easily understandable. But if you're like running to the gas station and you have to turn around, go get your phone, and go to the gas station and come back home, that's nomophobia. So most of us, if we were honest, we have these problems. But that social media connection, the internet connection, the phone connection, is not enough to replace personal connection with each other. And part of being the church, and we are the church, is that your journey of faith is not meant to be traveled alone. We've allowed the social media, the TV, the cell phones, the tablets, the computers, all to come into our lives and take a place and replace our friends. I mean, how about this? Especially you guys, and who here is under 25? Is it just you guys? When was the last phone conversation you had? Like actual phone call. That wasn't your parent calling you first, asking where you were. When was the last phone call conversation you had? I'm this bad, I'll be honest, guys. Especially if I don't know the number, sometimes even if I do know the number, do you ignore it? They call and be like, they can just text me. And you text them right after they call you, hey, what's up? You guys ever done that? Anybody? Is it just teenagers and 20-somethings? Anyone else do that? Parents, adults? We've mostly done it, right? We've allowed this phone, text messages, pictures, emails, all of that to replace connection with each other. If you go out and eat lunch today with other people, put your phone away. Don't check it. Resist the urge to check it. But our faith journey is not meant to be traveled alone. We've allowed that life to intercept church life, and we think, I can do this by myself. I don't need to go to church. I can just watch it online. I mean, you can watch the best preachers you want online. You can watch them on TV probably right now on several different stations, and this morning it was on TV. And you can watch, you can listen from wherever you are. You can be driving down the highway, listening to a sermon from a pastor around the world. That's how connected it is. But that doesn't replace our connection with each other. Because where we start falling with that is if we have no real connection with each other, we don't grow. We don't have a way to grow. We don't have a way to get better. Because I promise you, no matter how great the TV evangelist is or the guy that's on there, he might challenge you mentally, but he's not going to challenge you to plug in somewhere. Right? He's not going to, hey, did you get this done? He's not going to challenge you to, as you make steps in your life. He can make that moment decision, but moving forward takes people around you. They say it takes a village to raise a kid. It's the same when you're an adult. You still have to have people around you helping you become better. If I was at work and they hired me, say they hired me and gave me no training, sat me in front of a computer and said, go do it. How far do you think I would get in my job? I'd be fired, right? Pretty soon, because there was no training, no education, no way to know how to do it. In church, it's the same. We do need some training. We need some education. We need to know how to read this book. The Bible is one of the few books in the entire world that is written the way it is. How many books do you have at home that it says, turn to this, name, and then it's this number? I have no other book in my home that has numbers and verses, right? I don't read books from school and it's like, okay, this is on this section, this line, they're numbered, they're not. So even something that we consider basic because we know it and we're used to it, takes training. Our faith journey is not meant to be traveled alone. We need each other. Today's key scripture is Hebrews chapter 10, verse 19 through 25. Hebrews is actually a phenomenal book. It's written for a very specific reason, though. Paul wrote it to the people who were Hebrews. Hebrews would also be people that we would call Jews today, the Jewish believers, Jewish leaders. That means that they were people that were very educated in what we call the Old Testament. In particular, they were really trained in the first 5 books of the Bible, the Pentateuch. That's what they would call it. It's the first 5 books of the Bible. But they're training there, so then the reason that's important to know is that there's a few words that do not seem normal to the New Testament here, that are referenced here because they are part of the Old Testament, as he's explaining to the Hebrew people what this means. So he's explaining to them, this is how you get plugged in, this is how you stay connected. So as we move forward into verse 19, it says, and so, dear brothers and sisters, we can boldly enter heaven's most high place because of the blood of Jesus. By his death, Jesus opened a new and life-giving way through the curtain into the most holy place. And since we have a great high priest who rules over God's house, let us go right into the presence of God with sincere hearts, fully trusting him. For our guilty consciences have been sprinkled with Christ's blood to make us clean, and our bodies have been washed with pure water. Let us hold tight without wavering to the hope we affirm, for God can be trusted to keep his promise. Let us think of ways to motivate one another to acts of love and good works. And let us not neglect our meeting together, as some people do, but encourage one another, especially now that the day of his return is drawing near. So there's a few really big parts of that. The first one, there's a couple words that I want to explain because they're not normal to today, like to our vernacular, to the words that we use on a regular basis. The most holy place is not talking about the church. It's not talking about this place or this specific place that we consider the most holy place or the high place. The most holy place that he is referencing in the writing is the inner room of the temple. So in the Jewish belief, they built the temple, and all the way it was built is all laid out. King Solomon built it. King David helped secure things for it, basically, in the Old Testament. And as it was built, there was an inner room, and that was the room where only the high priest could enter, because no one else was worthy to enter that room except for the high priest. And through history, it was shown that some high priests weren't even supposed to be entering there either, because they would actually tie a rope around their ankle before they entered the most holy place, so that basically if they dropped dead in that room, they could be drugged back out. It was literally, it was a very serious thing to go into the most high place. So as they went in there, it's this inner room, and there was a curtain separating the inner room from the rest of the temple. So the high priest would have been like the top person in charge of their belief. It'd basically be the temple, the high priest. He's the one that's in charge of the whole temple. Today we would call that someone in our denomination, a general superintendent, be the one that's the head of the denomination as our church, the leaders there underneath of Jesus, of course. So those are a couple of what those words were. The high priest was someone that was very important to the belief. They were the ones that would forgive sins. They were the ones that would sprinkle blood, as it references. They would be the ones that would sprinkle blood for forgiveness. They would handle the sacrifices, the ceremonies, all of that. So, very important person. And as he's relating that, he's saying the high priest, and what he's saying is that Jesus is our high priest. Jesus is the one that can forgive our sins. He's the one that can redeem those. He is the one that can give us that power and that compassion. And if you know the Newer Testament, even if you don't, I'll explain it. When Jesus died on the cross, it said that the earth shook and the veil was torn. The veil is what separated. It was that curtain. It tore from the top all the way to the bottom, where the most high place, the most holy, where it was separated from the rest of the temple. It tore when Jesus died. Like, it was that powerful. That was the significance that God is no longer in that room. His presence is only there, but it is throughout. And Jesus is the one that brought that throughout. So then the first thing that we need to see beyond just this verses there is we can't neglect meeting together. He tells that to them thousands of years ago. Don't neglect meeting together. You got to get together. You got to come together. If this is with your church, if this is with your friends, if this is with your family, you have to come together. If you're like me, our families get together kind of irregular. Kristen's family, if it's a holiday, if it's a Sunday, it's a good enough reason to get together. My family's like, we'll get together 2 or 3 times a year. That's enough craziness for all of us, because we're mostly crazy. So I accept that, and it's okay. But we get together, and we can't neglect getting together, because if you don't get together, you can miss a lot in a year, right? You have those family members or those friends you see like at Thanksgiving or at Christmas only. How much goes on in that time in their life, right? How much goes on? Like if you're gone for a month or I'm gone for a month, when we were on vacation for a week and a half, it's like a lot happens in 10 days. A lot happens in a month, a lot happens in 2 months, 3 months. But we can't neglect meeting together. Just because we have social connections doesn't mean that that's enough. We need to talk. One thing that I enjoy about getting together with friends and people that I can kind of speak candid with, ones that like we can kind of debate stuff and no one gets mad when you leave. Like you can disagree with them and it's not like, we're no longer friends and I'm tired of you telling me I'm wrong or I'm tired of you saying this. Car guys are a perfect example of that. Because I know plenty of Ford guys, I know plenty of Chevy guys, and they will tell each other that the other one is wrong until the last day that they're alive, probably. James is proud of that. I know he's one of the group. But they will tell the other person they are wrong. And you know what happens? The other person says, yeah, so what? You know, my Chevy's better than your Ford, or my Ford's better than your Chevy. And no one's mad. Car guys, I mean, like, they will rip each other up and down because they drive a Honda, or they drive a Ford, or they drive a Chevy. And it's just fun, right? Like, we're just messing with each other. It's no big deal. No one's serious. But if you could take some of those same people and you put them and say, this person's Republican and this person's Democrat, how many of them would stop talking to each other? Right? It's like, oh, you disagree with me. We can't be friends. Like, when did that become a norm to society? We all have to be together. We all have to agree. Disagreement is good. It's really good. Because one, disagreement gives you a way to see another person's perspective, another person's point of view. But the other thing with disagreement is sometimes you're persuaded. And this isn't the argument and the name calling and you're an idiot, like none of that. That's not going to persuade anybody. You can name call people till you're blue in the face, but it's not going to make anyone feel different about what they believe. That's very true. Like if you're a LeBron James fan and people tell you that LeBron's not better than Michael Jordan or he's this or he's that, you're not going to be persuaded because they call him names. Like if you're a Trump supporter, you're not going to be persuaded because people call him names. If you're an Obama supporter, you're not going to be persuaded because people call them names. No one will. That doesn't solve it. But coming together gives us a chance to see different points of view. Proverbs says that iron sharpens iron. A lot of times, when I get together with people from the church, like we're planning for an event or we're planning for the future, maybe it's just to get together for kind of like a feedback session. You know what usually happens? I learn things I didn't see. I get ideas I didn't have. And I know something then that I didn't know before. But if we didn't have that, we didn't have kind of an open door policy to it, if I was easily offended because someone said, hey, today's sermon wasn't really on point, if I was easily offended, how long do you think they'd keep coming back? Not very long. They wouldn't want to come back and tell you again, well, this is kind of rough when you throw a hissy fit, for lack of better terms. But we can't neglect meeting together just because we disagree. We can't neglect meeting together just because we have different points of view. We come from a different place. We come from, different home and different ideals. Because I guarantee you that growing up in a small country town where I graduated with 47 people gives me a different perspective than some of you guys that graduated in classes bigger than my entire high school. It's a different point of view. And that's not a bad thing. So we can't neglect meeting together because we disagree. And we also can't neglect meeting together just because we see each other on social media. Because I promise you, 90% of people on social media do not put anything bad on there that happens. If they have, they're updating people, hey, this is going on. Pray for my mother, pray for my father, my sibling, my spouse, pray for me. Some of those happens. The other 10% of the people that only post drama on Facebook or social media. We all know both sides. And again, that's not a reason to neglect meeting together, neglect encouraging, or neglect helping. We have to come together and encourage each other. Because I have plenty of people lining up to discourage me, right? I could go anywhere. I could go to my old church that's probably 10, 15 people now from last I heard. I could go there and I could probably find 2 or 3 people there that'd be more than glad to chew me up and spit me out the other side. I could go to work and I guarantee you I could find someone who doesn't like the way I do things. So could you. No matter who you are, no matter what you do, there's always someone lining up to be a discouragement. If you're a speaker, if you're a singer, if you're a musician, if you're a student, if you're an athlete, someone will tear you up and chew you up and spit you out if they can. That church should not be that place. The church should be the place where it's like, you're terrible at this, so you should no longer do this. You should have nothing to do with this. The church should be the place where it's to beat you up. I shouldn't be around other Christians and just hear them talking about this. Well, did you hear about what Donna did? Or did you hear about what this happened? Or, Shelly did this. This is all going to happen. This is terrible. Or we shouldn't hear that from Christians. We shouldn't hear that from each other. We shouldn't gossip. But most importantly, we need to encourage each other. If someone and I've said this about Darren before, but me and him in the first year when we were getting things going and figured out, me and him met about weekly, and he would give me feedback and give me advice as I was going through it, as you're preaching, as you're listening, and different things, but also in running, an organization and stuff like that. even if he was giving me feedback that I needed to do better at something, he still said it in an encouraging way. It is possible. You know, I mean, if you need advice on it, I'm sure he'll be free to give you advice later. but really though, like, there's a way you can look at things, you know, hey, we need to get better here, but or I usually prefer to start with positives. You're doing really great here, here, and here. We just need to do this one a little better. And it's not that I'm trying to ridicule them or critique them, but I believe that most people are like me, and if you're doing something, you want to do the best that you can. I don't know anyone that wakes up and says, you know, I'm going to get up to worship, and I'm going to play, the guitar the worst way I possibly can. I know Landon doesn't get up in the morning thinking, I'm going to miss every note this morning. I'm going to come in late, I'm going to leave early on the song, I'm going to do it all wrong. No one wakes up with that. So if I can help make someone better, I want to. And that's going to be encouraging. That doesn't always mean it's positive encouragement, that it's, hey, everything is perfect. Like, I love my wife, but I cannot ask her about how my sermon went. You know why? It was good. Yeah, it was good. That's the response I get. It was good. Or, my favorite is, it was fine. Because me and her have different definitions of fine. Her definition of fine is, yeah, that was good. That's great. I don't have any issues. My definition of fine is, you need some improvement. And I don't know if that's a man and woman thing where our definitions come from and they differ, but, I'm like, oh, it's just fine? Like, what's wrong? Like, give me the list. Like, tell me. It's like, no, it's fine. It was really, no, really, it was fine. It's like, if you just say, no, really, it was whatever, it still doesn't make me feel better after that point. So just, And it's not that fine is bad, but it's just like, if I can get better, I want to be better. So I know I can't ask her, because she'll just be like, it was good. It was good. Because she stopped saying it was fine after I kept giving her a hard time about saying it was fine. But we all have that. And maybe your spouse or your significant other, your family, you guys have a different word. Maybe it was good is not one. Maybe you're a well family. We're well. We're not good. We're well. How are you? We're well. That's okay. But encourage one another. If it's the words we say, the things we do. Like last week, no role is too small for anybody. We all have a role. No role is too small. Part of that can be an encouragement when you help somebody, right? Like, you help your neighbor. Like, I remember me and Kristen bought a freezer, and it was in the back of, I don't remember what it was in the back of, actually. I think we borrowed a truck from someone, because I don't think we had anything to haul a freezer in at that time. And I'm unloading it, and we lived in Bolivar at the time, and our driveway was kind of the opposite of the one it is now. It was like on a hill upward, so the truck's backed up, and I'm in there pulling a freezer out of the back of the truck, and you actually, because you can't lay a freezer down, so it was standing up and strapped up, so I'm trying to pull it out and walk it out, and more or less bear hug a freezer and pull it down. I'm a big guy, but again, that's a solid way to get hurt. Neighbor saw me, know what he did? He walked across the street and said, hey, you need a hand real quick? Yes, that would be great. 2 seconds later, it's on the ground. Thanks, I appreciate it. He went back to whatever he was doing in his yard. I think he was fixing his lawnmower or something like that. Like he was a tinkerer. He was one of those guys who's always in his garage working on stuff. So me and him got along, because I do that sometimes too. My mental thinking place sometimes is when I'm doing something with my hands, but it doesn't take a lot of mental acuity for that moment. But it takes just a moment to help a neighbor like that. When you find stuff, sometimes your neighbor's trash can gets blown over in the road. Like it was trash day, it's empty, it's in the middle of the road. Grab it, move it back, those kind of things. Like, it takes very small things to encourage someone. As you guys get ready to go back to high school or going to college, something that can be an encouragement to those around you is, hey, like seriously, something as simple as hey, can be an encouragement to someone like, okay, like I'm not invisible today. There are nice people, because I promise you, there will be bad days. You're going to get out of class and you're going to be frustrated thinking, I have no clue what they just taught me in calculus. Like, I don't understand this assignment. I don't understand any of it. Maybe you're really good at math. Maybe it's chemistry. Or they want me to write a 3-page essay on what? You're going to have those times. So being kind. Being kind can encourage others. So that's something that we have to know. We can be an encouragement just through small actions. We don't have to sit down and write a dissertation about this is how I can encourage people. Be kind, be nice, do unto others is a good rule there, the golden rule. But we are, and you are specifically, and we are a direct reflection of our community. If our community, the church that we're part of, if the subdivision we're a part of, if the town that we're a part of is one that is usually pretty kind, ourselves will generally be a little kinder. Our driving might be a little bit nicer because of the way people drive around us. I've had multiple family members and friends that were from out of state and from different places mention to me of how nice people drive up on the strip. Like you're on 76, you're sitting bumper to bumper, and someone pulls up to leave a restaurant. How many times do you think you sit there and that person waits a long time like most cities? Not very often. You're like, well, go ahead. Right? This is Branson. That's a normal thing. And like I said, I've had multiple family members mention to me this summer that have come, that have visited, some friends that were from out of state and say, people drive really nice here. And these aren't even people from like bad places where like, you know in Chicago, you know in New York, you know in LA, there's none of that. If you're at LA, you're at the stoplight half a second after it turns green and you haven't taken your foot off the brake, they will honk. I know personally, and I'm like, I'm not a slow reaction guy at a light normally, so me getting honked at, I'm like, everyone must get honked at fairly normal here. Like that's normal. They're not even from those places though. They're from like Iowa, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas even. And they're like, wow, people really nice here. Our community, the way that we act together, is a reflection that we will personally reflect to others. So if we're around nice people, if you're around bad people, you'll reflect bad things. If you're around nice people, you'll reflect nice things. If you're around good people. So if our church here, if our people in our church are genuinely good people, if they're trying to help, if they're trying to be an encouragement, you'll find yourself encouraging people outside here too. You'll find yourself trying to make a positive impact on somebody's life. But if you're around people that it's about me, you know what you'll reflect on and what you'll look out? I gotta look out for myself because no one else is. I've said it. I bet you've said it too. No one else is going to look out for me, so I have to. That's not the reflection of encouraging others. That's, if anything, it's a little selfish that we think that way sometimes, but we have to help encourage others and help others to see it. Even if they don't do nice things for us, they don't do things that we think that are positive, we can be nice to them. We can make a difference through our actions. We can make a difference through our encouragement. The last thing that I want us to see from the scripture is that through the curtain. I love that it says, through the curtain, Jesus is through the curtain, he gives us a new life. He gives us a fresh sprinkling. And I actually love the term that's a sprinkle. Because I think of being washed, right? Because it says that he sprinkles our guilty consciences, but then he washes our sins, right? He washes our bodies, our sins away. When you sprinkle something, if I take a washcloth and I sprinkle water on it, you'll see where the water hits it, right? But it's not soaked, it's not gone, it doesn't disappear. If I sprinkle a stain on a shirt, it's still going to have some of the stain left. Our guilty consciences, I think, are sprinkled because it leaves the memory of what we did. It leaves that, I messed up, I made a mistake. Because as my dad always taught me as a kid, if you don't remember your mistakes, you don't learn from your mistakes, you're bound to repeat them. But it sprinkles our guilty conscience. So we still know that what we did, hey, we messed up because we did this. But it's been sprinkled, it's been forgiven. It's, you have the spots where you can see where God has worked and God has forgiven us and God has moved through that. But it's still there, knowing that we did it. And Paul, he actually talks about that he had a thorn in his flesh that he has God to remove multiple times. Some people speculate it's this or it's this. My personal speculation, pure opinion, is that the thorn in his flesh was the memories of murdering Christians before he was saved. That was the thing that haunted him at night. That was probably what pushed him to work harder than anyone around him. It's what pushed him to go. It's what pushed him to move. It's what pushed him to write. Because he had those memories of his guilty conscience of the things that he did. Sometimes, for ourselves, it's those same memories that push us to help others. I overcame this addiction so I can help them see that they can come over it too. If you've overcome a drug addiction, it's so much easier to help someone else overcome it than have never done it. If you've overcome any addiction, you can help others see that there is a way to overcome any addiction, if it's cell phone addiction, or if it's drug addiction, or alcohol addiction, or porn addiction, or whatever it is that your addiction is, because we can be addicted to almost anything. God can help us overcome it. But through the curtain, He brings us new life. As that veil was torn, when God entered the rest of the world, when the Holy Spirit was made available to all of us, when the sacrifice was made that covered our sins, through the curtain, we have new life. We have the ability to come in and say, God, I need forgiveness. And if you're like me, sometimes you've prayed for forgiveness for the same thing twice because it comes up to your mind again. And you're just like, God, just forgive me for this. But through the curtain, we have new life. It's fresh. It's exciting. Sometimes it's scary, but He brings us to a place where we're no longer the same. If we were the same, it wouldn't be a new life. It would just be clean, right? I can wash myself every day in a shower, but it doesn't mean it's a new day. It's a new life right here because I showered. If I shower at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, it doesn't mean today's a new day. Just being washed isn't what starts a new day, but it's accepting Him to come in and cleanse us, to purify us, but then to lead us into a new life, to overcome the past sins and just leave them behind and not let them haunt us. We may be reminded and known by our past, but we can use that as fuel to overcome them for our future. I ask that everyone will stand with me. We'll have a moment of prayer as the worship team comes. And I know that sometimes it's hard to look at the big picture, or maybe even looking through, the life that God wants for us, but we also see where our sins, where we've fallen short, where we have messed up. And I know that it's not easy to overcome them always. But I promise you that if you need forgiveness for anything that you have done, if you need to see the path to that new life, if you need maybe just the renewal of passion, I invite you to pray. You can pray at the altar. You can pray at the front row. I'll pray with you.